Coming up this week, I've got a special interview with Sam Rabinowitz, co-founder of Drivyn and Drivyn Performance. If you have a Tesla or are interested in getting a Tesla, you'll really want to listen all the way to the end. Not everybody takes the time to dive into all the special features and benefits of Tesla vehicles, and I myself, even though I am a self-professed geek for these things, I still find that after more than a year of owning a Model 3, there are still different things that I stumble across or things that I didn't know were even there. Nobody bothered to explain it to me. Aside from listening to Tesla-specific podcasts or poring over YouTube videos, there aren't that many resources to learn about what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and there really isn't anybody that is going to sit down and teach you about what you're missing. Teslas are advanced computers on wheels more than they are cars, and sometimes that can get really confusing or even overwhelming for people that have been used to driving quote-unquote regular cars their whole life. And that's where Drivyn comes in. Drivyn is a company that specializes in teaching Tesla owners about the many features and benefits of their Tesla vehicles. They realize that there is a deficiency in training from Tesla when it comes to delivery, and that's through no fault of their own. Tesla doesn't have enough time to sit down with each individual owner, potentially for hours, to go through explaining everything. So that's why I'm really excited to share about Drivyn with you all, and definitely wait till the end. I've got a special announcement as well. So without further ado, let's get right to the conversation with Sam. You're gonna love this one. Sam, welcome to the EV Resource Podcast. I know we're going to get into a lot of great information about the company and what you guys do and what you're offering, but before we dive into all of those details, I want to give you an opportunity to just share with the listeners and people who are watching this video about yourself, your background, and kind of what has brought you to where you are now.
Well, thank you, Zach. I appreciate it. It's great being with you. I'm actually a physician. I'm medical director at a rural clinic, and one of my hobbies, if you will, is innovation and creating new types of businesses to help people out. I've always been involved in trying to find something that's needed and being able to create something that helps people have a better life, enjoy life better, and obviously safety is very important.
Sure. So talk to me about your role with Drivyn now, but then also kind of where that started and how that all came to be.
Well, it all started when I got our Tesla. Actually, I've always wanted a Tesla, so the way to get that is to get it for my wife, right? And so we live in a rural area, so we had to make a decision: either drive to Portland, which is about 5 hours north, and pick up a Tesla in Portland, or they can deliver our Tesla to our house, but there'd be really no instruction at all. It's always good to get some instruction, so we decided to make a trip of it. We took a train up to Portland, and we picked up a Tesla, and it was really neat. We got in, walked in with our suitcases from the train. We took an Uber, obviously, to the dealership, and sat down. Everybody was very nice, and finally, we were called by our advisor and signed the paperwork over. Obviously, I got to take care of the financials of things, and he showed us a few things, set up our phone. Showed us how to basically get in the car and how to just get started. I think it was about 15 minutes. My wife says it was about 5 minutes. But either way, I told my wife, "Okay, here you go. You can just take it out." And she says, "I'm not driving this thing." And so okay, I went ahead and took the first 2 hour shift and drove it, and drove it just like a regular car. There's no difference as far as I knew. It just drives like a regular car. I knew it had all sorts of things. We actually got the full self-driving package, so I was really excited to try that as well. At the time, it was only $6,000. Now it's $15,000. It was still a lot of money. I mean, $6,000 is quite a big chunk, but either way, so I went ahead and just got used to it, and then we stopped in Eugene in the way, and I told my wife, "Okay, it's your turn. And actually, the way the train works is we left our car, one of my car over there, and it was a Forerunner, like an SUV. And so I told my wife, okay, I'll drive the Forerunner, and now you can take the rest, take it home. And she wouldn't do it. And so she drove my Forerunner, which she's never really driven, and was more comfortable driving my Forerunner than Tesla. And so during those 2 hours, I really kind of played with it. I was by myself. She was kind of following me, but basically, I had free reign, and I played with all the gadgets and tried all the things on the go, and yeah, I got fairly comfortable with it. I really enjoyed it, and I tend to be an early adopter. I tend to go on the edge a little bit and try new things, and so I was okay with it. But I found that my over the next 6 months to a year, my wife was still struggling with it. And even when she put it on autopilot, um, she kept breaking the autopilot, not breaking it, but I mean it's disengaging the autopilot to every corner. Sometimes it kind of freak her out as the car turns or the truck next to us and so on. But really didn't think anything of it until I was with a colleague of mine, and we were going down, and I was telling her that about the car, and I was really excited about it. And she said it kind of looks complex to me, and I said no, it's just like an iPad. You can learn how to use an iPad fairly easily, right? I mean, it's just you just kind of figure it out as you go. And she said, yeah, but this is my life. We're talking about my life here. I'm not going to learn this thing while I'm going to go. And that's where the light hit. I said, with the experience of my wife struggling and me, I didn't even think twice about it. For a year or so, I could figure it out. But there's a lot of people out there that that it takes a little more than that. And so we realized that there's a true need. There is a need for instruction. And Tesla used to give 2 to 3 hours of instruction to people, from what I understand, when they first started out. And then they got busier. And when we picked it up, it was about 3 years ago now. By that time, there was absolutely no instruction. Drivyn is an education company that teaches people on a one-to-one basis. We bring what we call a Drivyn advisor to you, or you meet up with them, and you go through a beginning course. We have an advanced course, when we have a full self-driving course. We even have a course, which is really not a course. It's just kind of somebody who just wants to get acquainted with the Tesla. It's just an introduction to show them that we can pick them up, drop them off at a different location for half an hour, 40 minutes, and just show them what the Tesla is all about. And so we have that, and just in the last few months, we've started Drivyn Performance, which entails teaching people how to do performance driving, as well as different safety maneuvers, all the way up to driving on a racetrack.
Okay.
And
See, now you're talking my language
okay,
because I like to go fast and have fun. And especially with Teslas, I know while I haven't had experience on track with like the Model 3 Performance or even the Tesla Model S Plaid, I know people who are setting records, especially in California, with those vehicles. So you've piqued my interest, but I don't want to focus just on that quite yet. We can talk about that a little bit further on. I need to tamper down my excitement a little bit because most people that are looking at needing help, I guess is a good way of putting it, or I'm not sure if help is the best word, but maybe some guidance and the ability to lean on somebody who is an experienced Tesla driver and ask questions and be shown things that maybe they wouldn't have known before. That is your big focus with Drivyn, is that right?
absolutely. I mean, our goal is to be the resource for any questions, any issues that people have with Tesla. We actually also have an advice line, so people
Oh,
can
neat.
get online, and they can text, and even call with chat with one of our advisors.
Very
And so,
cool.
yeah,
See, I didn't
that's
know that.
precisely it. Yeah.
So essentially, you saw this need for an educational component, and I'm sure you looked around, like you were saying, on YouTube or wherever else, and didn't really find the precise tool to fit the purpose of what really you were running up against. So, how long has Drivyn existed? I mean, has this been going on for the last 3 years since you got your car, or?
No, it took us a good, well, a year until I even came up with the idea, and then about a year in development, and now we're going about a year now.
Okay,
So
all right.
yeah, it's still a very new company, and we're still getting the word out. And I really appreciate you helping us get the word out.
Oh well, of course, of course. My mission, not only personally but also professionally, when it comes to EV resource, is really to lean on the educational side of things. Now,
Mhm.
typically, I'm brand agnostic, so I'm not focused on only one brand the way Drivyn is focused only on Tesla. But I found that people really don't know what they don't know, and I guess that's the biggest
Exactly.
thing is
Yeah.
that people get scared because they're running into something that is just so foreign. And I've found Tesla vehicles, especially, to be so incredibly different from every other vehicle that I had ever driven before, to the point where we've had our Model 3 for a year and a half now, and I'm still learning new features or little quirks that, like you said, Tesla does not tell you these things. Our car, we basically picked it up, made sure that the phone worked, and we were on our way. I guess what they could do or what they can do at this point with how busy they are getting with deliveries.
Right. What I say is I say that a Tesla can be driven like any other car. I mean, you can just get in it and you can just don't worry about settings and drive it. But it's not meant to be driven like a regular car. It's a whole different fundamental vehicle. It's a computer on wheels, and there's so many settings. There's I think I figured out like something like 500 settings and indicators, and that's not even the combinations of settings or the different tips of how to do things a little quicker to get to where you need to get to quicker or what you want to do if you want to do something. So there's a lot of important settings, including safety settings that a lot of people don't know about, and they don't have time to really research it. And I think in 2 hours we probably cover what somebody would spend good 50 hours on YouTube trying to figure out.
Sure.
So we save people a lot of time, and it's important. I mean, this is something that you take on the road, and you can really get in trouble with it if you don't really know what you're doing.
So Drivyn has specific courses that people can take, or I guess curated content of things that you go over with new owners or existing owners. Is that right?
Yeah, right. We have a curriculum we put together, and we link you up with an advisor, a local advisor. And we're right now in about 10 states, and we're looking to expand. So we are looking for new advisors in different states, and California, Oregon, Washington, and Nevada is where we started. So that's where we have our most concentration. But we have advisors in Colorado, in Florida, in Virginia, which is where you met Brad. He's our regional director that runs our area business there. And so we're more hands on, person to person, sitting next to you and teaching you the old fashioned way, you know, and it's really helpful to have somebody next to you to show you uh, what it is that don't know what you don't know. I guess, like you said, there's so many things that are available in so many different ways, even from what I call one pedal driving to no pedal driving. Um, and it's been really a transition of different. It's a different way to experience your vehicle.
Hmm. Sure. So I want to touch on the advisor standpoint. I mean, you said that you are looking to expand and grow that. If somebody is a Tesla owner, they're experienced with the car, very knowledgeable about it, and they would want to look into possibly being an advisor that's available with Drivyn, what does that process look like? What do they need to do? Are there like minimum knowledge requirements that you guys ask for? And how do you kind of pick who gets to be that role within Drivyn?
Right. And so, we look for experienced people, people who've had Tesla for at least a year and enjoy teaching, and a lot of people do that anyway. They teach their friends and so on. So it's part of join clubs and all sorts of things because that really is what people are attracted to, and because there's so much that those are great resources to have. And so, we're looking for somebody who's got that kind of an experience, that is into teaching people. We're looking for obviously people who have good work ethic and really are present themselves as advisors and can represent the company well. And so what you do is you just get on the site and you just apply as an advisor. You'll see on the menu, there's become an advisor. You can kind of see that right there on the top of the menu. And you just fill out a very short application, and then our regional directors will contact you in your area and do a short interview. And then we have a test actually that you kind of pass. It's a very basic test, but just to know that you're really have some understanding of what goes on. And then we have a training process to go along with that. So we definitely want people who are well suited for it and who have the background, the ability to provide the proper instruction.
And are the advisors volunteers, or is that something that you guys are actually incentivizing them on a financial basis?
Oh yeah, it's a financial basis, and we share percentages. So they get the lion's share of the revenues that come in. We have a base price that we recommend, but they can actually set their own price. So let's just say somebody's got a great following, who's an influencer. They may hold a higher price, to be able to have people who were just dying to be with them and take lessons from them, all the way to just everyday people who want to maybe just work spare time, part time, or even full time. And it's very similar to Uber in the sense that you just link a person who we call them clients. A client will look up in their area who's an available advisor. They can see what types of courses they teach and what they charge, and then they sign up with them. We do have the ability to give uh, percentages and incentives and so on, so advisors can give out different incentives as well.
Well, that's really neat. So you started to kind of talk about that process where somebody, if they are looking for an advisor, they would go to the web page, search for an advisor, type in the location of where they are. Like for example, I'm in Richmond, Virginia, so I would type in Richmond, Virginia. What would I see then after typing in Richmond, Virginia?
So you'll see a list of advisors that are in your area, depending obviously what area. Some areas we don't have advisors yet, so that's where we're looking to open up more advisors. But some areas we've got maybe 4 or 5 or 6 different choices, and you can select who you're comfortable with, depending on what they're charging, depending on their background, um, depending on their ratings, and so on. So the clients can rate the advisors, just like I said, very similar to Uber or Airbnb. It's a peer-to-peer type of an application that we developed specifically for this.
I like that model because it is very transparent and allows people to really give feedback in a public way, not just feedback to you guys that I'm sure you're very trustworthy. My experience with
Yeah.
companies in general is that you don't necessarily want to allow them to hide behind the curtains. You know, you want things to be transparent. So I like that. I'm sure people really appreciate having the ability to rate their advisors. Do you find that a lot of people are coming back for repeat courses?
Yes, I mean we got, like I said, we got the beginning, so and then advanced and then full self-driving. So those are the main courses we have. And yes, I mean certainly people will want to learn more, and there's only so much you can cover in a 2 hour span.
Sure.
And our full self driving course is a 3 hour course,
Okay.
uh, and because that involves more, like I said, learning new driving skills and driving intuition and instincts.
Sure.
And we all have driver instincts. We can kind of see something's coming, and we know that we need to do something. And
Yes.
those are very different when you're driving full self driving.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I know about full self-driving is from talking to people or watching YouTube videos, and I can tell there are a lot of situations that while I might be comfortable allowing the car to take corrective action or make its own decisions, I would imagine a lot of people that are not used to even autopilot would intervene before the car even gets the opportunity to do so. It's like,
Right, exactly. And so you learn, depending on obviously what your driving style is, and what you know where you're at, and if you have a routine that you always follow, you learn when it can do really well and when you need to take over before it does something stupid.
yeah,
And it's almost, if you think about uh, the old cruise control, it's it's like you just, when you it didn't have the assisted technology that slows you down when the car in front of you slows down,
Mhm.
right? So you're kind of speeding up in a car, and you better take over, right? I mean, so it's a very similar thing, and the taking over is just as easy and just as quick
Sure,
as in cruise control. So those are the things that you really adapt to, and that's when I talk about developing the instincts. Those kinds of instincts, you kind of know. Well, you know what? Here, this corner here doesn't look like I want to. I want to really chance it with full self driving, so I'll take over.
yep,
Some people have the ability to to give it a little more, you know, to let it to test out what it can
that
really
would be
do.
me.
That's me, and my wife goes crazy when I do it. But I said, I just want to see what it can do here. Just hold on, honey. I've got control. Don't worry. If something happens, I can control it. But I just want to see how it can behave in this situation, and that's kind of what we learn, and so we build a foundation for people so that they have that foundation to work with when they're on their own.
And that's a really good point because I'm not sure if risk tolerance is the best way to put it, but you're going to have people that their vehicle, they want to learn all of the capabilities as well as the limitations and will often take that vehicle to its absolute limit to know where that line is. That would be
Absolutely, yeah.
me. But then there
Yeah.
are other people that are like, nope, I never want to go there. I never want to find out. And in many ways, I have always found, aside from being the most fun, that finding those limitations is also, in many ways, the most safe. Because if you and your vehicle are in an emergency situation where you have to react to something that is not your usual, day-to-day driving habits, that if you aren't familiar with the limits of your vehicle, that's when you cause an accident, run into somebody else that is causing an accident, or have trouble because you aren't aware or experienced with what the vehicle can or cannot do.
Precisely, right. And so you want to experience as much as you can, obviously staying safe. I mean, that's critical. You want to make sure everybody's safe,
Yep,
and stretch the limit a little bit so that you can know what what it is that you're capable, what it is that Tesla is capable. Like I said, it's your co-pilot. And the more you know about your co-pilot's capabilities, the more comfortable you can be.
sure. So I got to ask because when I first found out about Drivyn, my initial reaction was, really? Like, are there really people that are going to be wanting to sign up and pay to learn about their car? Um, I had a lot of skepticism, not quite cynicism, but skepticism, where I'm going, I don't see the market for that. I see the need for it, but I don't see the market for that. So I'm curious, am I completely off base? I mean, is there just a line of people waiting around the block to sign up and learn about how Teslas work?
No, I think you're absolutely right. In many ways, we don't think as adults that we should take a driving course. I mean, that's even insulting in some ways. Teenagers take a driving course and they pass it, and then that's it. You know how
I've
to
been
drive.
driving for 20 years. I'm an expert by now, right?
Precisely, and we've had people that purchased gift certificates for people, and they
Oh,
never took the course because, and we find that that is one of our roadblocks, and that's the message we need to get out there. It's not the same as taking a driving course. We don't teach people how to drive. We teach people how to use this technology, and it's a whole different system. So that's really the message that we have to get out there, and that it's okay, and you've got a new technology, you got a new computer, you want to learn something about it, you want to learn how to use this program well, you want to understand, if you need to use Excel, you want to learn the basics of Excel
sure.
and Word, and how to do certain things, and not just kind of flop around and figure it out as you go, because that takes so much energy and so much time. And just like what hit the light bulb to me was the fact that this is your life, and this is the life of other people that you're dealing
Oh,
with.
yes.
There's really no reason not to take a 2 hour course. You're spending, what, $50,000, $60,000. You can't spend a couple of $100 and a couple of hours to really learn how to use this thing.
And that's a great
So
point. Who do you find is your typical client? Are they in a specific demographic usually, or do you find that you have people coming to you from all walks of life, all economic status, different age groups? Or do you find it to be very, very focused that you have the kind of the same type of people reaching out all the time?
Well, obviously, from an economic standpoint, Tesla, since we specialize in Teslas nowadays, it's a higher obviously economic standard. Not too many people, that are in lower economic standard, unfortunately, can afford these vehicles at this point. Which, hopefully one day that will be.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it really has to do a lot of, I think, older people, in the sense that have gotten the Tesla. They don't know what to do with it. We know people that have actually returned their Teslas because they didn't, it's like they didn't
oh,
get any instructions and they hated it. And
oh man,
well, my wife is a great example. I mean, she loves the Tesla now, but it took her so long. And if it wasn't for me, that Tesla, we would have returned the Tesla.
sure.
So yeah, so I think we're in that arena. I mean, but people from all backgrounds, in a sense. I think it's just a matter of, I personally, I believe that everybody should take a course. There's no reason not to. So we're still, trying to make sure we get the message out in the right way, to make sure to let people know, this is not about learning how to drive. This is about learning how to use a machine that's a very that's very intuitive. And I
Mhm.
think Tesla takes that approach. Yeah, it's so intuitive, you can get in there and do it, but there's so much you're missing out on, and there's so much that you should know before you actually, take the car on the road.
Sure.
Um so 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 that's the approach we take. And I wanted to say one other thing is, we're focusing on Teslas, and that's our niche right now. But our goal is to do all electric vehicles. Tesla is now 80% of the market of the electric vehicles, and Tesla also has the technology, a certain technology that's a little bit ahead of other EVs at this point. And so we were able to, because of this structure of the community, and being involved with Tesla clubs, a lot of people, we can really find advisors that are really excited and willing to teach people how to use the vehicles. Where other electric vehicles are not quite set up like that yet, but they will be. And so our goal is to be able to work with all electric vehicles.
And that was a question I was going to ask, so I'm glad that we kind of touched on that. So not right now, but eventually, as the other vehicles kind of you might have a need for that more with the other vehicles, especially I would imagine companies that are like Tesla, not using a dealership model where they might not just have a lot of one-on-one time with the vehicle, like with a salesperson, to be able to get all the information that they might want. Are people typically coming to you after purchase where they have their own car and the course that they're taking, they're using their own Tesla? Or do you have people that are wanting to know about the cars before they purchase and don't have one yet? And if that's the case, then what do you guys do at that point?
Yeah, so we've got people that call our advice line even before they purchase Tesla, and ask us some questions about that. Our goal is to meet up with them as they receive their vehicle. If it's at the dealership, at home, wherever, we want to meet up with them right away. That's our goal.
Sure.
But at this point, because it's hard to get the message out, we don't know who those people are that are just purchased Tesla. We don't have Tesla is not offering us a list of
Of
those
course.
clients. So they a lot of times they don't hear of us until they start researching more on how to learn this, and they look up certain influencers to learn about certain
Mhm.
things, and then they somehow hear about of us. So right now we're reaching people mostly after they purchase their Tesla and they're already starting to really get into it and want to learn more and more, because pretty much I know I had to listen to hundreds of hours of YouTube video to learn all the different functionalities that I learned at, and I still do. I mean, there's still a few things here and there that I've got to look up here and there, new features that come on. I mean, obviously I read all of the latest updates and about the
Mhm.
updates and everything like that. But sometimes it's not that clear, so I kind of
Oh
listen to a
yeah.
video of somebody who's kind of demonstrating what this is all about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, Tesla keeps changing the cars.
and they do. Yeah,
What was
yeah,
it? Not, I think it was last year, the big holiday update where the UI changed. I had
yeah.
to
Version 11,
relearn
version
how
11.
to
Yeah,
find everything. It was, I mean, it was frustrating, but then also kind of exciting because it was new. But I imagine that there will never be a point where somebody can't learn something new about the Tesla that they own because the company changes things so frequently. Um, I would imagine that creates a little bit of a challenge for your advisors as well because they have to constantly stay on top of all the changes and the updates and everything as well.
that's absolutely, yeah. And our manuals and everything were just changing. It was version 11. It created a big. This is just kind of when we just first actually took off, and all of a sudden everything was different,
Yeah,
and they really made a complete user interface change, and so basics are still the same, but how to get to places were a little bit different.
I think it took me a week
And
to figure out how to pull up the tire pressure again.
yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, they used to have cards, if you remember cards,
Hmm.
and now they don't have that anymore. So, but yeah, there's plenty of things like that. I mean, just an example with me, when we got our car, um, it took me close to 6 months to figure out that the mirrors, when you go in reverse, they kind of tilt down and they show you kind of the floor, if you will,
Yeah,
rather than, and it's just something I wasn't used to, and I hated it. And it took me 6 months to figure out how to stop that, how to
interesting
actually
because
make it so it doesn't do that anymore.
I
Uh,
prefer that because then I can see the curb and make sure I don't hit it. So,
Yeah, so it's a personal preference, but
yeah,
I mean I'm a little older than you, and I've had maybe 40 years of driving, so I'm used to just regular mirrors, not to look at
sure.
the on the ground for you. So, and that's fine. I tried to get used to that. I just don't. So everybody's different, but the reality is it takes sometimes, unless you know who to ask, or what kinds of things. There's just so many things like that. That's just one example of so many things that
Yeah.
that you might not know that it's even capable of doing.
And I imagine there's a decent number of people that might not like something about their car. Like we'll use that as an example with the mirrors that tilt down when you put it in
Correct.
reverse. They might not know that you can turn that off, and they're not going to be curious enough about it to search YouTube videos or whatever else, or even maybe complain about it at all. They just in the back of their head go, I hate this.
That's the way it is. Yeah. Yeah.
And so then they have something about their car that could be changed, but they don't know it, and therefore they don't like it. Um, that is a really great point. And I
Yeah.
think what you're offering is one of the very few ways that would address kind of that subtle situation that people might have, because they don't know that it is changeable. Once again, they don't know what they don't know.
And there's so many of those things. I remember the first time that I had a friend that, I was in the car, automatically locks, right, as you're in there and you're driving. And then I drove up, and I had a friend who was going to get in the car in the driver's seat. I mean, the passenger seat, right? And I didn't know how to open the door for him. I didn't know how to unlock. I didn't know how to unlock the door. I mean, it's a simple thing on the screen. It looks like a lock, right? And it's and I just didn't know. You just have to touch that, and it opens the door for them. Uh,
I remember learning that as well. And that's something so simple as unlocking your doors, but if you haven't fooled around with it enough, you don't
right.
know.
I had a
Uh,
friend that took a car for a test drive at a dealership, or and drove it just like a regular car for half an hour. Drove it back, and it took him 10 minutes to finally leave the car because he didn't know how to turn it off.
because you
You know,
don't.
you don't exactly. You don't turn it.
Yep.
You just walk away, and it just shuts off
Yeah.
automatically. And so things, so many things like that. And interestingly enough, it was a friend of mine. We actually had him take a course afterwards, so he actually got another test drive with an advisor with him.
Sure.
And it was such a difference, obviously, to take a test drive with somebody sitting next to you than just taking it for a drive. You don't know what to do. You drive it like a regular car, and
Yep. Before we kind of call it quits for this, I definitely want to retouch on the performance and track driving and everything. Um, I feel at home mostly when I'm on a track. I mean, that is my favorite place to be. I've got my playground 45 minutes north of here, Dominion Raceway, that actually Wednesday I'm going to be spending a decent amount of time over there testing some of the Hyundai and Kia and Genesis vehicles. So I love the idea of helping people learn how to track their Teslas. I think that is brilliant. In fact, as I kind of alluded in the very beginning, I get more excited about that than the other stuff. It's important. The other things are awesome, definitely important. But talk to me more about that, because that isn't something that's listed on your webpage, at least that I saw.
Yeah, so this is something fairly new that we've developed. It's called Drivyn Performance, and we do have a website called drivynperformance.com. And it's still it's very similar to our other uh, site in many ways, but this is something we're just kind of rolling out. We partnered up with a professional race car instructor who's a NASCAR former NASCAR driver, and he headed up the National Corvette Museum for over 10 years in Kentucky, and really great guy. As well as we took on a new CEO. His name is Arabian Prince, OG Arabian Prince. If you're into rap at all, you'd know that OG Arabian Prince is a legend in rap. He actually started the group called NWA, and he's also an avid race car driver. And I met him through another uh, business that a friend of mine was in, and talked to him about what we were doing, and he just absolutely fell in love with it. And so we joined up forces, and he's actually heading up this segment of our company.
Cool. Cool. Well,
Yep.
as that continues to evolve, I'm definitely interested in keeping up on how that's going, the progress, and certainly, if I could probably spend another hour asking questions about that. I won't, but,
Well,
but
if we can do another, if you'd like, we can do another segment. Maybe I'll bring Arabian Prince on as well,
you know
if you'd
what?
like to do that.
I will take you up on that. That
Okay.
definitely sounds like something that I could really get into. So to kind of tie things up for today, is there anything that we haven't really touched on that you feel is very important to include?
I think just the messaging for people to understand that there's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's no reason not to take a driven course, and that it'll only enhance your experience in every which way, whether beginning or racetrack. I mean, so our goal is to have the first zero emission, carbon neutral racetrack in the world. So that's kind of our goal with the Raven Prince, and we've got some very interesting concepts on how we can have a specific racetrack for electric vehicles, all electric vehicles.
Oh man, we got to talk so much more. All right, so how can people find Drivyn? I mean, certainly if they're watching the video, they can see that it's spelled differently than the word driven would be. It's Drivyn. Um, what's the best way for people to reach out and explore, either if they are interested in becoming an advisor or if they're searching for an advisor?
Yeah, both. If you're interested in becoming an advisor, just go on the site and you sign up as an advisor, and that's I think it's in the top menu, fairly easy, or you can scroll down and it'll talk about that. So very simple process. Just sign up, create an account, and one of our directors will get a hold of you. If you're interested in becoming a client, it's just easy. Go in there and just look up find an advisor. You just put in your zip code, and you'll be able to, if we have advisors in your area, you'll be able to find an advisor and be able to just sign up with them and set a place to meet, and there you go. Make it very
Awesome.
simple.
Awesome. Well, Sam, I want to thank you for your time and coming on the podcast to share this information. I have to admit, my perception and certainly the way I was thinking about Drivyn as a company has changed dramatically over the last 45 minutes.
Well,
You
I
know,
appreciate that. Thank you.
and so I think one of the biggest things, and you've mentioned it a couple of times now, is messaging. So
Right.
I'm gonna definitely revisit this in my head quite a bit, because I think there are definitely ways that um, I would want to help with that as well.
Okay,
So
we certainly appreciate that, and really enjoyed meeting you and spending some time with you, and I look forward to do some more.
I hope you all learned something valuable from this conversation with Sam. I know I definitely did, and I had mentioned it to him during the conversation, but I really want to emphasize that before talking to him, I just didn't get it. And now I really understand what they're trying to accomplish. And the special news, seeing as the mission that Drivyn has is directly aligned with my own, both personally as well as professionally, to educate people about electric vehicles and help really push the transition to sustainable transportation, I decided to start the onboarding process with Drivyn to become an advisor here in Virginia. So that's the exciting news. I'm not listed on the website just yet, as of recording this last part here, but I do expect to be available for the Central Virginia region soon. All right, before I end the podcast, I do want to touch on the question of the week. Last episode, I mentioned that it looks like Toyota is starting to shift focus and put more effort into building full battery electric vehicles in the coming years. Can they turn the ship around, or is it too little too late? Well, 80% of you responded that it looks like it is too little too late, leaving only 20% agreeing with me that they will get their act together and be a dominant force in the EV space the way they've grown to be in the automotive space generally. Christopher Lawrence adding a lovely comment, TikTok Toyota. Got your point across there, Chris. I love it. For this week, naturally, there aren't a number of topics to choose from, but I want to know what you think about Drivyn. After listening to this conversation, are you where I was in the beginning, very skeptical, where you just don't see the value that the company is bringing to the marketplace? Or are you convinced, like I was, and there is a definite need for further education, more in-depth instruction with Tesla's vehicles? So as always, go to patreon.com/EV resource. I'm going to have the question of the week pinned to the top. You do not have to be a Patreon supporter to respond to the poll and leave a comment, but something I learned this week, you do have to have a Patreon account. Super easy to create one. You just need an email address, and I think that's it. It's been a while since I created my own. I went to check out the poll just anonymously, not signed into Patreon, and I realized, yes, you do in fact need a Patreon account. But once again, you don't need to spend any money to do this. It's completely free, and I value your opinion. I want to know what you think. Additionally, if anything is on your mind, either a question, comment, or something in response to what you heard today in this episode, or honestly any episode, you can always reach out to me via email at hello@ev-resource.com. And I do want to remind you that I am accepting audio clips, if you will, so you can kind of call in to the show, if you will. What I want you to do is record your voice using the voice recorder on your phone and keep it to 90 seconds or less, just in the interest of time. You can send that in via email as well. But ultimately, I really want to get back to a more interactive experience with this podcast. So I want to hear from you, whether that's your voice or text. Send me an email, and I would love to read out your question on a future episode. Before we end this episode, I want to thank our Patreon supporters, especially Rajiv Narayan at the director tier, Christopher Lawrence and Andy Cooper at the executive producer tier. And if you enjoy the podcast and feel like I've earned your support, the best way to show your appreciation is through Patreon. Tiers start at only $5 a month, and in exchange for your support, you get a lot of really cool benefits, including ad-free episodes of the EV Resource podcast and access to the monthly Patreon Zoom call I call our water cooler chat. If you enjoy the podcast, I ask that you share it with some friends and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you use to listen. And if you want to go back and listen to any of the previous shows, you can do that on our webpage, evresource.com/podcast, as well as on any of your favorite podcast platforms. I have now taken the collection of deals and benefits from different companies and put them on the webpage. So if you go to ev-resource.com/deals, you'll find a list of affiliates, products, services, things that I've kind of started to collect that I believe are beneficial, that offer a lot of value, and maybe you'll find something that is significantly relevant to you. So that is all for this podcast. Thank you so much for being with me, and I'll catch you next time.